Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. Real friends, real situations, real life. Authentic chats from the heart to the gut. Two best friends keeping it raw, real, and relatable.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our second edition of Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. I'm Michal Offa, and I'm here with my long time, literally since we were 3 years old, friend Jodi Greenblatt from Jodi Greenblatt Coaching. And this is Real Talk, which is exactly that, just real talk. And we're so glad that everybody came to join us again, especially after our crazy introduction the first time, where we spoke about this long journey that we've both been on together that keeps bringing us back. But today we thought we'd get into some real nitty-gritty stuff about what we do, because I think it's relevant to both of our lives in this moment. And generally, I think it's relevant to everybody's life in their moments, because it's something that affects us every single day, all the time. And it sounds a little bit cliched, but today we're going to talk about boundaries, but probably not in the way that you think. So first of all, Jodi, how are you doing?
Yes, hi. Thanks, Michal. Thanks so much for that intro. I'm doing really well. Thank you. All's good here. Our dog had puppies a couple of weeks ago, so we got a lot of excitement going on. But yeah, doing all well. I hope you are too.
Yes, it's it's good. It's winter. My first winter in Texas, which is very strange. It's very reminiscent to me, and you would understand, of winter in South Africa,
Mhm.
because I'm used to Canadian winter, where even though it's freezing cold outside, the houses are so insulated and everything is so built for the cold that it really doesn't affect you as much as people think. And
Mhm.
people are always surprised when you go somewhere else and you tell them that you were freezing, and they'd say, "Why? You come from Canada." And it's because everything about Canadian life, because winter is so long and so bitterly cold, everything is revolved around making winter more comfortable. And
Okay.
here, winter is so short and brief. And although it gets cold, because I'm in the desert and the wind blows and it's crazy, right? Nothing is set up for it. So it is
Mhm.
freezing,
Ah,
freezing. And it reminds me of South Africa, when we were always cold inside and sitting on top of heaters and wearing
yes,
1,002 sweaters and
yes.
scarves and this and
Well,
that.
and in South Africa, though, as cold as the winters get, the coldest time is as the sun is going down, like around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The night, middle of the night, is bitter cold, early hours of the morning. But then as the day progresses, by 11, 12 o'clock noon, even 1, 2, and 3 o'clock, it can be cool enough to wear a short sleeve, warm enough to wear a short sleeve. So, what is it like in Texas from that perspective?
So it depends. Now I'm not in Dallas or Austin right now. There's a big blizzard in Austin. I think they got 5 whole inches of snow, which shuts the city down, which again is kind of
How they're
amusing.
not prepared.
Right, yes. But here where I am, I'm literally in the middle of Texas, in the middle of the desert.
Mm,
So the sun is warm when it shines, and there's a lot of sunshine. It snows very little here. There's very little precipitation.
mhm.
And the sun can be warm, but the wind blows. It's very windy. It's windy through the summer. It's windy through the winter. It's very windy. And the wind is awful.
Bitter cold.
It goes straight through you. So if
Oh,
you're sitting in your car in the sun, it's lovely. It can be, right? Not today. The last few days have been really cold, but this is about as cold as it gets for a week or two, and then it's done. Um, but yeah, the wind
yeah.
really
That
blows.
kind of cold that, like you said, blows through you, or that kind of cold where you actually, like in South Africa, I've experienced where it feels like my bones are cold.
Yes, yes.
That's uncomfortable.
And you can't warm up. Like, you can't warm up. It's the
And by contrast, I'm
yeah.
also in winter right now.
No, I'm not even talking about you in Florida there,
And
where
I'm in South Florida. Short sleeves.
but you know what? It's all relative because you've had cooler days there, I know. Or not necessarily where you've lived, but I know Florida's had some cooler
Oh
days.
yeah, a little bit more north than me, yes.
Again, nobody's prepared for it, right? There's no, because it happens so rarely and for such a short period of time, there's no thought given to it at all. So when it gets cold, it can be uncomfortable. But anyway, enough. You know what? It's so weird. I never understood how people could talk about the weather for hours and hours and hours and hours. And look at us.
Yeah, we are doing it.
Talking about the weather like two old fuddy-duddies.
And you wanted to talk about boundaries.
But now boundaries is we're going to stop talking about the weather and we're going to start talking about things that are a little more important. And we both do such different work in a way, and we do such similar work in another way, because I always thought that it's, what I do, and I think what you do, is teaching ourselves how to truly love ourselves and prioritize ourselves. And what happens to your life and how your entire existence can transform no matter what you're going through, simply by understanding how and when to prioritize oneself. And that doesn't mean being narcissistic or egocentric
Or selfish.
Well, and I'll challenge the selfish, because one of my therapists long ago, my parents thought I was nuts since I was little, and I was in, I was in therapy all my life. But one of my therapists said something to me once, and it landed so hard.
Yeah.
And she said to me, "What makes you think selfish is a bad word?"
Yeah, that's exactly.
And
exactly. Yeah. It doesn't mean selfish. Absolutely, exactly. Somehow selfish is at first lands to make people feel like they're doing something wrong, or that they shouldn't be thinking of themselves. And so, yeah, I mean, I stay away from words that semantically will not have the same meaning for people. So I typically don't like to use the word selfish. I don't think I even use the word self-love when I do coaching and therapy, unless it lands well for the person I'm talking to, because that's also self-love. It's hard for people to also, grasp that concept. Like, what does that mean? Of course I love myself, of course I like.
You're loving yourself, or is it just loving yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So,
so what do you use?
Say that again.
What do you use instead?
What do I use instead? Okay, so I like to do like operational definitions for things instead. So I would describe self-love, if I was talking about it, I would say something like, how do you want someone to love you? Like if you were in a relationship with a partner or a good friend or anybody, what is it you would want from them? And then whatever you list, you're like, okay, how can you do that for yourself too? What you would want them to respect you, you would want them to take you into consideration, have you in their thoughts, you would want them to care about your health, ask you how you're doing. Okay, you can translate that exactly to yourself. How do you ask yourself how you're doing? That means checking in with yourself, knowing what you're feeling, being in touch with your body, being in touch with how you're feeling, being in touch with your intuition. So that's what that would translate to yourself, when it's what you would want somebody else to care about you in that way.
Got it. So then why do you think, especially for, I don't know what generationally you would call us, but I would say for women who are definitely over 40, why do you think it's such a problem? Why do you think that concept is such a problem? And it's something that I see, and I mean, you've developed in a way an entire coaching program around this issue. Why do you think it's becomes this societal thing for our generation?
It's a good point you say about the age. And sorry, this is a bit of a diversion. Just the other day, I was looking up with someone what our generation is called, and I think we're the X generation.
Oh, we're Generation X. Yes.
Yeah, Generation X. So I haven't given that question actually a lot of thought. Why our generation? So I'll just say a few things that I'm thinking, because we don't see it so much in the younger generation. My daughter, who's 20 years old, I don't see that problem with her. I mean, if anything, I see her as completely being able to put herself first. So it makes me wonder if, because I'm going to say that what I've thought about with like how I grew up, I feel like I was in the generation where I was just the tail end of that generation, like my parents were, where the husband goes to work, brings home the bacon, so to speak. The woman stays at home and takes care of, well, everything else. So we traditionally call it taking care of the kids, but it's the kids, it's the household, it's the cooking, it's the cleaning, it's the laundry, it's making sure the kids' homework is done. It is the pets, it is everything.
It's running the home.
So, what did you say?
It's running the home. It's literally
Everything other than going out and working. So the expectation might have been that's how you are a good wife, a good partner, a good woman. You keep translating that, a good person. So then your worth gets tied into that. So growing up in that generation, that would be, yes, you're selfish if you miss one thing that's going on in the home, if you happened to make mac and cheese for dinner one night instead of a whole meal. Like, to be honest, my mother never made mac and cheese for dinner, not once. So I think that's why it could be for our generation, because that was the expectation, that would be considered selfish if you weren't taking care of everyone and everything else all the time. But so this isn't really connected to your question, but it's something that I've thought about, how I really do think I'm at that tail end of that generation where I then, and probably also because I emigrated to the US around in my mid-20s, and I do think the US is ahead in social norms by a few decades than South Africa. So I think I got thrust into where society was turning more into taking care of yourself first. And I couldn't do that at first because it's not what I was accustomed to. You're frowning. You disagree with that?
Oh, I'm not. I'm thinking. I'm thinking because I have some stuff to add to that, but I want you to finish your thought.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Yeah, but we can, as I hear what you have to say, I'll add.
Well, I think that I'm going to add to that because we weren't brought up to think that our job, that your moral standing, what a good person you are or a bad person you are, was what a good homemaker you were. You had to be a homemaker, have a career, look absolutely perfect, right? Go party with your friends, be the perfect mother, raise your kids perfectly. Your kids all had to get straight A's, right? You had to have a career. You had to look after, so we had to look after absolutely everything. And you had to have this perfect facade. And, we were told through the 90s and the 80s that you can have it all. You can have a career and and if you can't, if for whatever reason you can't, that's your moral failing.
Yeah.
No, it's not an impossibility, which it
Yeah.
is. It's your moral failing. So I think differently from our parents' generation, who they came up in this new wealth and this exploration of sexuality through the 60s and the 70s and this freedom. So they were really, really self-centered, and it was all about this personal development and the spiritual growth and going on these journeys, and they brought us up, right? We were brought up almost having to bring ourselves up, taking care of ourselves. And as things changed, and as the 80s came and there was all this excess wealth from the baby boomer generation, we were told, okay, this is what you need to do to have it all. And then we grew up, all of us, a little damaged. And I don't say that in a bad way.
I was just going to say, I don't use that word, just by the way.
I don't mean it in a bad way, but I'm going to say challenged.
Uh-huh.
A little challenged, and we all have our stuff, right? And what we did with our kids was we said, I'm not going to force that on my kids. And we let our kids do whatever that, helicopter parents, making sure everything's good, making sure they're happy, because our parents didn't care that we were happy. Do the work, be the perfect facade,
I
right?
don't think they knew to care. I don't think
No,
they
no,
knew
different.
of
Everybody
that.
does the best that they can with what they have. It's not a moral, this isn't a
Mhm.
moral failing. It's
Mhm.
just how things have developed. So we land up generationally as women where our entire existence has been around how much we can give to the world
Mhm.
to make us a good and decent person, because we know on your gravestone that's what they're going to write down: never made mac and cheese for lunch, right? um and we land up in a place where we wonder why we're sad or ill or unfulfilled or just uncomfortable in our own skin,
Mhm.
which is something that I deal with a lot every single day. And how does that translate into how we interact with other people, right? Being honest, like saying to somebody, I'm really not doing well, is seen as our own moral failing. It's a hard,
Yeah.
hard thing to
Yeah. Very hard to admit that you're
do,
not.
right?
Yes.
Even in a relationship, it's we put up with a ton of stuff, be that a friendship or in a partner relationship,
Mhm.
because it's our moral failing if things aren't working. And
I got to tell you at this point, I've reflected a lot on my marriage that I left because it was unfulfilling. And you just said something that is one of the key things that I have reflected upon. I was not able to say, this is too much for me.
yeah,
And had I been able to say that and have that discussion with my husband at the time, I mean, I don't know what kind of discussion we would have had, but that would have been a different thing than me. Still, I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was doing everything I could with my daughter, every moment, giving her every opportunity, and working full time and taking care of a household. Yes, I will say my ex-husband was also doing the same, but it reached a point where it was too much. And I couldn't say, this is too much for me. I
right.
knew I knew that my life wasn't the way I wanted it to be. I did know that because I had many conversations about, is this
Yeah.
what we want? Do we want our lives to look like this? Don't we want to design our lives to look different? How can we do it differently? I kept asking those questions in my marriage, but we never came up with answers, and I didn't realize that this was too much for me.
I remember, because you and I, that was in one of our times where we spoke very, very often. And I remember that. I remember your struggle with your dissatisfaction,
Mhm.
because again, it was put on yourself. And I think you actually even said those words to me: what is wrong with me that this isn't enough? Or I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah. Do you
Something like,
remember what I said? I would love to know if you knew, because
I
yeah,
don't
those words don't sound like me.
those aren't your words. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing, but you were concerned about what was it about you that made this situation overwhelming for you, or not enough for you, or
Like
unsafe.
was I questioning why I wasn't coping or some, I don't
No,
know. That doesn't sound right.
why you weren't fulfilled, because on paper
Ah,
everything was
yes.
perfect,
Yes. Okay. That
right?
sounds like me.
and
Yes.
yet it wasn't. And as I said, it was a long time ago and I don't remember, but
Yeah.
I remember I was actually sitting in my car outside of my work speaking with you on the phone. I remember all of that, and I remember the gist of that conversation,
Yeah.
and how it resonated a lot with me. And this, I'm going to reel us in a little bit because again, you just said right now, having, if you would have been able to say the words without it being this moral failing or there's something wrong with you, how different would things have turned out? They might have turned out exactly the same.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
might not have, but it would have definitely caused the relationship to evolve in a slightly different direction.
I don't know if I would, that we don't know either, I would say, but
For you.
I would have at least gotten information from
Yeah.
what would have happened by asking that question or making that statement.
Yeah, for you it would have been different. I mean, there's many things, and
Yeah.
you were in a very different space at the time to your husband, and there was a lot going on there. But this brings us back to these boundaries around ourselves and our feelings and our expression of our feelings and the permission to even have the feelings, and how does that translate into where we are now as women?
So I feel the need to say at this point again, just because I do this with words. When first starting to talk about boundaries, I do feel the need to, the way I describe it is, people sometimes think boundaries means telling a person no.
Yeah, right.
No, telling a person, I'm not going to do that. Boundaries is way more than that. And I break it down, like I would describe it as like external boundaries might be, yes, something that you ask someone not to do. If someone is doing something that is annoying you or harming you, yes, ask them not to do it or telling them not to do it. Yes, that's a boundary. But what you just talked about there is an internal boundary where this is a part that is much more difficult to be in touch with is, so if we use this example, in order to be able to say, hey, I got too much going on. I'm taking care of a young child and working and a household and trying to navigate having a social life, having a relationship with my husband. Like, how this is too much. Life is too much. What do we do about it? Recognizing it first is recognizing your internal boundary, recognizing that you feel that way, recognizing that even if we just call it, recognizing that something's going on inside of you that doesn't feel comfortable. That's the first indication of there's a boundary in there that needs to be addressed.
Love that. So how do we navigate that? If somebody who's listening right now is feeling uncomfortable in their skin, I guess is the best way to describe it, because it can have many faces or many facets to it. But how do we allow ourselves to have that thought without beating ourselves up? Because one of the things that we spoke about just before we started recording was that all that we've been taught our whole lives is that being a martyr is a good thing. Doesn't matter if it kills you, be perfect. Right? Everything that you were doing, right, that felt like too much. No, it's not too much. Deal with it, because that's what it takes to be, a good person in this world. So how do you reconcile that feeling and your judgment on yourself? 。
I'm trying to recall what you said just a few moments ago, because I feel like that was a good jumping point. Like, how do you say that a different way? Because I feel like I want to answer that differently.
When I spoke about how do we reconcile feeling uncomfortable in our skin with this.
Is it like being okay with how you feel? I
Yes,
think that's what you're touching on,
absolutely.
is
Like
how
that's
do you be okay with how you feel? That is such a big question, really,
right.
because that's tied into first knowing how you feel. That's something as basic as, and I say basic in terms of it's going to sound basic, but it's not that easy, is first even knowing what you feel. That's not always easy. Knowing how you feel emotionally, like can you put to words how you feel, other than saying I'm upset, or I'm frustrated, or I'm sad, or I'm happy. Maybe anxious. Today people will say anxious. Other than those 5, I think, feeling words, can you refine that further? Can you know exactly how you're feeling? So that's one of them, like first knowing how you feel.
I love that, is finding words, because in my work, especially when I deal with a lot of emotional eating, which is one of the consequences of this feeling that we're talking about, because we try and self-medicate, is finding the words to describe your feelings. And it is incredibly challenging for people. It's simple, but it's not easy. And
Yeah.
I often give a long list of a whole bunch of different types of feelings, and try and identify these feelings in your world and in your life. And it's an incredibly emotional experience for people to actually say, I feel unfulfilled, or I feel like a moral failure.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard.
That
And
explains a lot more. It gives a whole new meaning to I feel anxious. No, it's like you those examples. I feel unfulfilled. I feel a failure. I feel like life isn't going the way I want it to.
I'm afraid, right? What are you afraid of? Like really getting the word, finding the words, because I found that if you can name something, you can begin to address it.
Yeah. Yep.
And if it's simply a thing, right? Sorry, my dogs like to say hi on podcasts.
Oh, I heard something. I didn't realize it was your dog. Yeah.
Yeah, that's them. But
Mine are
if
sleeping
it's
here as
just
well.
if it's just a kind of a feeling, we can ignore it or sweep it under the rug or make an excuse for it. And I think this becomes very relevant in the current work that you're doing as well, because in relationships, we know when something's wrong. We know it doesn't feel right, but actually putting a
Yeah.
to
I was
that.
going to say, I was also going to move to what you just said, is there's the identifying the feeling, the emotion, and then that emotion is going to also have a bodily, physiological feeling, which again, not everyone is in touch with, but you can learn to do that. It's what I teach women to do. And it was making me think how now we're getting into, because I talked about emotions and then I talked about how it feels in your body. So that's like the mind-body connection already. And this is where me working as a relationship and empowerment coach with women from toxic relationship patterns, and you working in the nutrition arena, also the mind-body connection. That's how important it is.
Well, just in case our listeners don't know, but we have a whole bunch of bacteria, most of us know about that now, that live in our lower intestine, and millions. We are more bacteria than we are human cells. And it is an organism. It is a living, breathing organism. It's called your microbiome, and it is directly attached to a big nerve called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is one of the main nerves in your brain. It's the biggest nerve in the body, and it innervates pretty much all of your organs. Now, the brain is generally the organ that tells your body what to do. If I want to move my hand, my brain is telling my hand to do it. My hand might give my brain feedback that, ow, that hurts. And then my brain will tell my hand to stop doing it. But it's the brain that's in control. The only pathway that is actually a dual highway is the connection through the vagus nerve between the brain and the microbiome, the bacteria in your.
What do you mean the dual highway? What do you mean?
It means that they speak with each other. So it's not a one-way street. It's not the brain telling the hand what to do. It's the hand also telling the brain what to do. And the microbiome controls a huge amount of what goes on in our brain and our thoughts and our feelings, which is amazing. A lot of your brain chemicals are actually made in your gut with the help of your microbiome, serotonin being a big one of those, right? There's another thing called butyrate that the gut bacteria make that directly impacts energy for the brain as well. So brain fog, cravings, depending on the types of bacteria you have in your gut, will literally impact what foods your brain is telling you want to eat.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they're noticing right now, well, they're doing the research right now on mental illness. So ADHD is where a lot of the research is in this current moment. There's some really big studies going on with ADHD and how to impact ADHD through your gut. Schizophrenia has been directly linked to your gut bacteria, Alzheimer's to some degree, and Parkinson's as well. So it's incredible. Like the reason that you say I get butterflies in my stomach when I'm nervous, there's a reason.
You can literally feel it in your gut. Your gut is telling you what to do. And more recently, we have right through the vagus nerve information that is newish.
Yeah.
It is literally your gut telling you what to do.
There's a reason that when people get stressed, they sometimes get diarrhea, like explosive diarrhea. Sometimes they get really constipated. Right? They get stomach aches. That, like, one of the most, I guess, a regular kid thing is, I don't want to go to school. My stomach hurts. And that's often got to do with fear or anxiety around something going on at school. So it's a really interesting concept. And it's something that especially through our parents' generation and our generation, we have been brainwashed, and I'm using that word very literally, into ignoring. We are told that your intuition doesn't mean anything, it means very little, and it's facts and science and this and that. And if you have a gut feeling about somebody,
tell me why you say we've been brainwashed into not listening to your gut. Tell me where you're thinking about.
Again, this is very much in the alternative medicine sphere where I sit, but we've been told that if you have a symptom, there is a medication to manage finished period, right? There's nothing else that you can do. If something doesn't feel right to you, you get over it, right? If you have symptoms that we can't medicate, the symptoms are in your head.
Yeah.
Right? We're literally told to outsource our mental, physical, emotional health.
Yeah.
Somebody else
can
medicate us. And that happens in the mental health world. It happens in the physical health world. It happens in the psychological health world. There's a pill for that.
So the caveat I want to say to that is, I think in contrast to when I was little, and actually my grandmother, my granny comes to mind, how she used to, when she used to talk about the doctor, she used to literally, when in front of a doctor, call them doctor. Like that's who they were. They were like God. Like it wasn't Dr. Smith or Dr. Adams, or it was doctor, what do you think? And whatever the doctor thought. I do think there's a change, though. I do think there's a shift. I think today, and this word advocating, advocate for yourself, advocate for your health is big. Yes, it's not so easy. You're going to disagree with me or what? There's both sides to it, because I do think people are advocating for themselves and for their health, both mental and physical health, more than in decades gone by. It's not always possible because, yes, ultimately there is a medicine, there is a pill for that, or there's a doctor or someone in the medical field, even if it's not a doctor, to go see for that. And if they don't find the solution, there's no solution. You're left with nothing. But I do think there's a shift.
To some degree, to some degree, I still think it's more about I'm demanding that I get this medication, or I'm demanding that I get this treatment, a lot more than I'm taking. So, and I'm going to
Yes.
bring this back to what we were speaking about, because I think it's important. I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking responsibility
Mm-hmm.
how I feel. And it's not to say that medications aren't important. They are. My
Mm-hmm.
goodness, we are alive today because of certain medications.
Yeah.
But it's we have been taught, I think, in every area of our life to absolve responsibility and give the responsibility for ourselves to somebody else. And that
Mm-hmm.
comes back to the boundaries of identifying our own feelings for
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
we are feeling, because no, the world tells me I should feel fine, so I should feel fine, or I should feel this. These are the only feelings I can have. So these are the feelings I have. Being unsatisfied or feeling unfulfilled or feeling afraid is some kind of moral failure, and that's just not on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really taking responsibility and saying, you know what, this is where I'm at, this is what's going on. And that allow that there, I think there is so much power in that beginning of that boundary, because when we know what it is, then we can choose what to do with it. We might not like all our choices.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
might not have all the choices that we think we should have or that we want, right? I would like to, win the lottery and go and live on a beach and never have to worry about stuff like that again, so that I could work whenever I wanted, or any of those things. I don't have that choice, but there are choices, and we can choose. And I can even bring that back to your marriage. When you eventually realized what was going on for you, you were able to identify ways that you could move forward that served you, in good ways and bad ways, and making mistakes and doing the right thing and doing, in hindsight, what might have not been the perfect thing, but you still allowed yourself. And I'm just simply using you as an example here because we brought it up. You put the power back into your own hands, rather than saying, this is too much. I'm just like, this is too much. This is too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, this is too much. And literally ending up having a nervous breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
or all of the things that we end up doing to self-medicate or self-soothe in certain ways. And instead you said, okay, how do I move forward in my life in a way that serves my goals and my needs? And
100%.
it's not selfish, but definitely with the self in mind.
Yeah. I had to. I could see no other way. I knew that life could be different. I knew that there was a different way. Yeah, I took things in my own hands to make it what I wanted it to be.
And
Yeah.
I think that's when, boundaries are scary. Making a change is terrifying, but that is the gold nugget that you get from it. That is, I found another way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's very empowering.
And
It's
I could.
empowering.
Yeah.
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 And
So
it's taking control of your life, and which brings us, that also makes me think of the concept of what is in your control in life and what isn't, which is kind of tied to boundaries as well. But looking at you know, since we're talking about this, yes, I looked at what is in my control, what can I change, how do I want to change my life,
Yeah.
and what things do I just not have control over, and those things you may not like it, but when you can accept it instead of resisting it, life becomes a lot more free and peaceful.
Well, and that's interesting because as you were speaking, one of my coaches at the moment always says, what do you need to let go of?
I love it.
And identifying what you need to let go of is only the tip of the iceberg. Actually letting go. And that's the boundary. The boundary is letting go. And being prepared to let go is hard because what's left? We're so busy hanging on to something that even if it isn't serving us in a positive way, it's filling a void and serving us somehow. And I think that that's important probably in a lot of the work that you do with a toxic relationship, you know, and the fear of being alone. And the fear of not having a partner or being not, I would rather have this weird love awfully thing than have no love.
And you know what another big one is? Fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Knowing if you're in a toxic, just use this one as an example, since we, but it can be any situation that might not be that pleasant. Being in a toxic relationship might not feel good, but you know what to expect.
Yeah. That's it. Better the devil you know, for you know,
Than the devil you don't. Yeah.
and it even comes to hanging on to things that may have served us when we were 5 years old, and we're not letting, you know, the stuff that we bring along with us, and trusting the process of letting go, right? And it's interesting because the universe always has your back, but you have to let it. You have to let it, right? If you keep fighting it, it's gonna fight you back. And this is with your body, this is with your mind. The harder you fight, the harder it will fight back, because you need to survive, and you would like to thrive, even though you don't realize it. You would like to thrive.
Yeah.
So it's a big letting go, right? Letting and being prepared to let go. Those are big and scary things, and that's why you developed the course that you developed, right? Is understanding that even though it's unknown, it can't be worse than what you've got.
It's hard to trust. That's a hard thing to trust. The course that I developed was based in what we were just talking about, is where I knew that I had to change things in my life. And I guess I started doing a lot of research. And I also turned to myself, like, Jodi, you're a licensed marriage and family therapist. You've been doing therapy all these years. You know stuff. What would you do? What would you tell someone to do? And I started following like my own advice, if I can call it that, and then also learning a lot of stuff. I had to learn a lot of things. And then looking back, I was like, I have a program here. The way I live my life now, this is a program I've just developed. And I'm just super, super excited and passionate about helping women in these situations, women who have experienced toxic relationships and want to break those patterns, because I have a formula. And I'm just super excited to share that and, you know, create a better environment, a better world for people.
That's great. Now, before we end, because
Yes.
I'm excited about your program as well, tell people where they can find you online, because I know that that there's people listening who you've probably piqued their interest a little bit. I'm hoping you have. And I know they'll want to reach out. So tell them, I know all the links are going to be in our show notes and that, but I want you to tell everybody how to find you, because
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
the offer is really important.
Thanks, Mich. So I'm on Facebook, just my name, Jodi Greenblatt.
Two
I
T's
also
and
have
an I.
Jodi with an I and Jodi and Greenblatt with two T's. And my name of my program and my Facebook group, which is free for women to be a part of. I provide free tips and tools, free video trainings on there, and I'm happy to answer questions in the DM as well. My group is called Empower Her Transformation. Empower Her Transformation, Breaking Free from Toxic Relationships. So yeah, you can join my group as well. And
Oh,
Michal, what about you? Where are you found?
Oh, well, I'm Michal Offer, Michalofer, and michalofer.com, michalofer.com. I post on Facebook, on my Facebook page, Michal Offer Lifestyle and Wellness. I post long form posts every single day. We have lots of heated and sometimes not heated discussions. It's all stuff nutrition. So I'm very obsessed with the science of nutrition and food and how it impacts us and how it impacts our lives. The work that I do with my one-on-one clients and with my group clients is I develop customized programs for them. But you can always just reach out to me through my page or on Facebook if that was something you wanted to explore. But I think one of the great things that we're both doing, and that's so important, is saying, like, giving lip service to I want to help people is easy, right? Actually helping people is another. And I always tell people that when they want the one-on-one coaching or they want the group coaching or they want the plans, that's great. It's because they want the one-on-one support. But all the information that they would ever need is probably on my website and on my Facebook page. So if you're prepared to do the work yourself, right, which some people are and some people aren't, off you go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want a little bit personalized and customized, which in our busy world is
Mm-hmm.
is sometimes necessary. And that's
Mm-hmm.
another way to set a boundary is to say, hey, I can't do this all on my own, or this is too much for me with everything else going on in my busy life to do on my own. I need help.
and and it can be support as well. And there's another piece to that as well. Is some people just learn better in an environment that is collaborative. It can be as simple as that. Some people, like you said, some people might prefer just doing everything, reading everything online, reading up on about it, doing it themselves. That's not my style. That's not how I am, and it's not how I do my coaching, because it's not how I would prefer. I like collaborating, so I would prefer doing things with someone.
And that's interesting because I'm quite different to you. I'm very much, I like to study and do things, work things out. I like to teach. So for me, I like to run group programs. I like to help people change. But I learn from other people that way. Like some of my biggest lessons have come from my clients. But I'm very much a lone learner, and it's just different things that work
Yeah,
differently. And
yeah,
again, it's learning about yourself. And
yeah.
I think
What works for you?
the whole subject of boundaries is the beginning of it is learning about yourself, that you and I don't have to look or be exactly the same for
Mhm.
both of us to be absolute successes and fantastic people, because we both are. So,
Oh, thank you, Michal. It's always nice chatting with you.
it's true, but that's it. So embrace who you are, learn who you are, and embrace who you are, and that'll allow you to be the very best version of you that you could be. Wow, we covered a lot today.
We did.
Did a lot of tangents as well, but this is always great. Real
It's
talk, right?
real talk. That's what happens. Go
That's
off on different
that's it.
tangents. I know I'm trying to stay not too tangential, because you and I can just go off for hours.
Oh, it's hard, but it's good. So I know that we'll have a wonderful way to continue and change and evolve and grow in our next conversation,
Perfect.
which I'm really looking forward to. Enjoy the puppies.
Thank you. Thank you so
And
much.
we'll chat soon.
Okay, take care. Bye.